The glass doors of the dealership slid open with a quiet hiss. Morning light spilled across the polished floor, reflecting rows of brand new trucks like mirrors. Engines gleamed. Chrome sparkled. Sales banners swayed gently from the ceiling. It was just another normal Tuesday, or at least that's what everyone thought. A man stepped inside wearing a faded black hoodie, old jeans, and dusty boots. No bodyguards, no cameras, no attention. Most people didn't even look at him twice. To them, he was just another customer. But it was Keanu Reeves. And strangely, he wasn't acting like an owner. He didn't greet the staff, didn't go to any office, didn't ask for special treatment. He simply walked past the front desk, hands in his pockets, studying the trucks like someone buying their very first car. Quiet, calm, almost invisible. A young salesman approached him. Looking for anything specific, sir? Keanu gave a small smile. Yeah, just a truck. Something simple. Nothing fancy. Nothing expensive, just simple. Minutes later, he was already signing paperwork at the counter. No negotiations. No ego. Like money didn't matter. Like he just wanted to get in and out. The pen scratched softly against the contract. The showroom buzzed with laughter and small talk around him. Coffee machines hissed. Phones rang, deals were closing. Everything felt ordinary. Then, a voice broke through the noise, soft, shaky, desperate. Please, there has to be something you can do. I really need this truck. Keanu's pen stopped moving. The sound of the room seemed to fade. He didn't turn right away. He just listened. A man's voice answered coldly. If you can't pay today, ma'am, we can't help you. That's policy. Silence. Then a quiet sniffle, like someone trying not to cry in public. Keanu slowly lifted his head, his jaw tightened. The relaxed smile he'd been wearing disappeared. He set the pen down, and for the first time since walking in, he didn't look like a customer anymore. He looked like something else. Something serious. Something watching. And whatever he had just heard made him stop cold. Because in that moment, Keanu Reeves wasn't buying a truck anymore. He was about to change someone's life. The dealership didn't look like a place where life-changing moments happened. It looked ordinary. Bright white lights, polished tile floors, the faint smell of coffee and new leather mixing in the air. Sales banners hung from the ceiling shouting things like $0 and Lumiton Dales. A TV in the corner played a sports channel nobody was really watching. Phones rang. Keyboards clicked. Salesmen laughed too loudly at jokes that weren't that funny. It was business as usual. Customers wandered between trucks, opening doors, tapping tires, pretending they understood horsepower and torque. Everything felt normal, predictable, safe, and that's exactly why nobody noticed the small things. Nobody noticed the tired mother holding a folder too tightly to her chest. Nobody noticed the way her shoes were worn down at the heels. Nobody noticed how she kept checking her phone, like she was waiting for bad news. Nobody noticed it, except Keanu. He didn't turn his head fully, didn't stare. He simply watched through the reflection of the showroom glass. Calm, quiet, observing. It was strange. This place technically belonged to him. His name was on the paperwork. His money helped build these walls. And yet, none of the employees recognized him. To them, he was just another guy in a hoodie waiting for paperwork. A background character. Invisible. Maybe he liked it that way. Because when people think you're nobody, they show you who they really are. Near the sales desks, a group of employees joked with each other. One of them whispered something about another bad credit customer. They chuckled. Someone sighed dramatically. Man, I hate when people waste our time like this. Keanu's eyes flicked up slightly. Just slightly. Enough to notice. Enough to understand. The energy around that desk felt different. Colder. Less patient. Like kindness had a price tag. The woman stood there, small against the tall counter, explaining something softly. Probably her job, probably why she needed the truck. Probably why today mattered so much. But the salesman barely looked at her. Just typing, clicking, shaking his head. Policy, numbers, rules, no empathy. Just business, and somehow that bothered Keanu more than anything. Because a dealership wasn't supposed to feel like a courtroom. It wasn't supposed to feel like begging. For a moment the room grew louder, laughter, printers, doors opening. Yet that tiny conversation felt heavier than all of it. Like a quiet storm building in the corner. If you enjoy stories where small moments turn into something powerful, take a second to like the video and subscribe. Because what happens in this dealership today nobody sees coming. And trust me, you'll want to stay until the end. Keanu folded his contract slowly. Didn't rush, didn't interrupt. He just leaned back against the counter, watching, listening, learning. like a chess player studying the board before making a single move, because sometimes the loudest power is silence, and right now, nobody realized the quiet man near the front desk wasn't just a customer. He wasn't just a buyer. He wasn't just some random guy waiting for keys. He was the owner, the decision maker, the one person in the building who could change everything with just a few words, and the people laughing 20 feet away. They had no idea their next few minutes were about to cost them more than a sale. Behind him, the woman's voice trembled again. Please, I really don't have another option. Keanu closed his eyes for a second, took a slow breath, then opened them. Calm but different now. Focused, because the normal morning atmosphere. It was over. Something had shifted, and only he could feel it. The storm hadn't started yet, but it was coming, and everyone in that showroom was standing right in the middle of it. Up close, she didn't look difficult. She didn't look irresponsible. She didn't look like someone trying to waste time. She just looked tired. The kind of tired that sleep doesn't fix. Her jacket was neat but old, sleeves slightly frayed at the edges. Her hair was tied back quickly, like she hadn't had a full minute to herself all morning. There were faint dark circles under her eyes, not from one bad night. From months of them. She stood at the counter with both hands gripping a thin folder. Inside it were papers that had clearly been opened too many times, pay stubs, a driver's license, forms printed and reprinted, edges bent, corners folded, like they'd been carried everywhere, just in case today was the day someone finally said yes. The salesman barely glanced at them. He typed lazily on his keyboard. Click, click. Each tap sounding colder than the last. Keanu watched from across the room, still quiet, still unnoticed. The woman spoke softly, too softly, like she was afraid her voice alone might annoy someone. I can put down a little more today, she said. I picked up extra shifts this week. The salesman sighed. Not angry, not loud, just annoyed, which somehow felt worse. Mom, it's not about shifts. Your credit score is the issue. Credit score. 2 words that sounded small. But right now they weighed 1,000 pounds. She nodded quickly, like she already knew. Like she'd heard that sentence too many times before. I understand, she whispered. But I really need the truck for work. My old car died yesterday. I deliver equipment across town. If I miss this week, I might lose the job. She tried to smile while explaining, tried to stay positive, but her fingers tightened around the folder, her knuckles turning white. Keanu noticed that. He noticed everything, the way she kept apologizing, even though she hadn't done anything wrong, the way she kept saying, sorry, after every sentence. Sorry for asking, sorry for existing, sorry for needing help. It hit differently. Because this wasn't someone asking for luxury. She wasn't asking for the newest model, or leather seats, or upgrades. She just needed something that worked. Something reliable. Something that could keep her life from falling apart. Through the showroom window, Keanu spotted an old sedan parked outside, faded paint. Small dent on the side, one headlight slightly cloudy. Probably hers. Probably the car that finally gave up. For a second he imagined her morning, standing beside that dead engine, trying the key again, and again, praying, then realizing it wasn't starting. Not today, maybe not ever. And that's how people end up here, not because they want something new, but because life gives them no choice. Back at the desk, the salesman pushed the papers back toward her. We could try again in a few months, he said flatly. A few months. She blinked fast, like she was trying to hold something back. But I won't have the job in a few months, she said quietly. Her voice cracked at the end. Just a little. But enough. The kind of crack you only hear when someone is trying really hard not to cry in public. Nobody else noticed. The phones kept ringing. Printers kept buzzing. A couple nearby laughed about lunch plans. The world kept moving, like her problem didn't exist. Like her life wasn't quietly falling apart in that exact moment. She nodded again, slowly, embarrassed. Okay, thank you for trying, she said. Even now she was polite, grateful for nothing. She gathered her papers carefully, too carefully, buying time, because once she turned around, she'd have to face the reality of walking out with nothing. No truck, no solution, no backup plan. And that's when Keanu saw it. A tiny movement. She wiped her eyes quickly with her sleeve, hoping no one saw. But he did. He saw all of it. And something inside him shifted. Not anger. Not yet. Something quieter, heavier. Because sometimes the loudest kind of pain is the kind people try hardest to hide. And for the first time since entering the dealership, Keanu Reeves wasn't just observing anymore. He was deciding. Keanu didn't move right away. He didn't rush over. Didn't interrupt, didn't raise his voice. Most people would have stepped in immediately, made a scene, tried to play hero, but not him. He simply stayed where he was, leaning lightly against the counter, arms relaxed, eyes calm, watching, because years of life had taught him something most people never learn. You see more when you stay quiet. The woman slowly turned away from the desk, folder pressed to her chest, like it was the only thing holding her together. She took one step, then another, small steps, heavy ones, like each foot weighed twice as much as it should. She wasn't crying anymore, which somehow made it worse. It was that numb kind of sadness, the kind people feel when they're already used to disappointment. The salesman had already moved on, laughing with a coworker, talking about weekend plans, like she'd never even been there, like her problem was just a pop-up notification he'd closed. Keanu's jaw tightened slightly, just slightly. Still calm, but focused now. His eyes drifted to the computer screen the salesman had been using, then to the paperwork, then to the price tags hanging from the trucks, then to the staff, observing patterns, how they talked, how they treated certain customers differently, who got smiles, who got rushed, who got respect, and who didn't. It didn't take long to understand. Some people here weren't selling cars, they were judging lives, credit scores, clothes, appearances, making decisions before conversations even started. And that didn't sit right with him. Not in a place built with his name, not somewhere that was supposed to help people move forward. His fingers tapped lightly against the counter. Slow, rhythmic, like he was thinking through every possibility. Across the room, the woman reached the exit. Her hand hovered near the door handle, hesitating, like stepping outside meant accepting defeat. Keanu exhaled quietly through his nose. Then finally, he pushed himself off the counter. Not fast, not dramatic, just steady, controlled. The kind of movement that makes people look up without knowing why. One of the younger employees glanced at him, then did a double take. Something about his face felt familiar. But the hoodie, the beard, the simplicity threw them off. Keanu walked toward the sales desk first. Not the woman, not yet. The salesman looked up casually. Hey man, you need help with something. We'll get your truck ready in a few minutes. Keanu nodded once. Calm. Yeah, he said softly. I just had a couple questions first. His voice wasn't angry. It wasn't loud. But there was something about it. Something steady. Something that made the room feel quieter. The salesman straightened a little without realizing. Keanu glanced at the computer screen. At what point? He asked gently. Do you decide someone isn't worth helping? The salesman blinked.
What? You seem pretty sure about her. That fast. It's just policy, he shrugged.
Bad credit. Happens all the time. Keanu nodded slowly, like he expected that answer, like he'd already heard it 1,000 times before. Still calm, still unreadable. If you're still watching right now, comment, respect. Because what happens next isn't about money, it's about character. And don't forget to like and subscribe. These stories only get more powerful from here. Keanu's eyes moved around the showroom again. Few employees were watching now, whispering, trying to place him. The energy had shifted, the ladder from earlier. Gone. Even the phones seemed quieter. Because something about this quiet man felt important, felt different, like he wasn't just another customer asking questions, like he had authority without trying, like he didn't need to prove anything, and that's what made it intimidating. The salesman forced a chuckle. Look man, it's nothing personal. That's just how business works. Keanu held his gaze, longer than comfortable, not aggressive, just steady.
Yeah,
he said softly. I don't think it should. A simple sentence, but it landed heavy. Behind him, the glass door creaked open slightly. The woman stepping halfway outside, one foot still inside, one foot ready to leave. And for the first time, Keanu wasn't just observing anymore. He was about to step in, not loudly, not violently, but in a way that would change everything. Because real power doesn't shout. It walks slowly, speaks calmly, and makes everyone else nervous without even trying. And right now, the entire dealership could feel something coming. They just didn't know what, or who, they were really talking to. Something changed in the air. It was subtle at first, so subtle that nobody could point to exactly when it happened. But everyone felt it. The laughter near the coffee machine faded. Keyboard clicks slowed. Even the constant ringing phone seemed quieter. Like the entire showroom had taken one slow breath and forgotten to let it out. Keanu didn't raise his voice, didn't slam a hand on the desk, didn't accuse anyone. He just stood there, calm, still asking simple questions. And somehow that made everyone more nervous than yelling ever could. The salesman shifted in his chair. For real, man, it's just policy. He repeated, forcing another smile. We treat everyone the same. Keanu tilted his head slightly, the smallest movement. But you don't, he said gently, not angry, not emotional, just factual. Like stating the weather, the salesman opened his mouth, then closed it. Because how do you argue with calm? Anger you can fight. Calm exposes you. Across the room, 2 employees whispered to each other. Who is that guy? I don't know, but Mike looked stressed. Is he some kind of auditor or something? Corporate, maybe. They straightened their uniforms instinctively. Suddenly checking their screens. Pretending to work harder. Funny how fast behavior changes when people think someone important is watching. Near the entrance, the woman hadn't left yet. She stood by the door, pretending to search her bag. But really she was listening. Her shoulders slightly hunched, like she expected to be called back and scolded for something, like hope was dangerous. Keanu noticed her reflection in the glass. Still there, still waiting, still unsure. That alone told him everything. If someone's first instinct isn't anger but fear. Life hasn't been kind to them. He turned back to the desk. What options did you offer her? He asked. No used inventory? Not in her range. No payment plan. Too risky. No manager review? The salesman hesitated. Well, I mean technically, but you didn't try? Keanu finished softly. The words weren't sharp, but they hit like a hammer. A couple customers nearby stopped pretending not to listen. One older man leaned on a truck door, watching openly now. A young couple paused mid-conversation. People sensed something unfolding, something bigger than a normal sales dispute. The tension spread like ripples in water. Then, one of the newer employees walked past Keanu and froze. He stared, squinted, looked again, his eyes widened. No way, he whispered under his breath. He grabbed his coworker's arm. Bro, look.
Look at him. What?
Doesn't he look like who? The employee pulled out his phone quickly, pretending to check messages. But really, he opened a photo, a company article, a press release from years ago, a picture from the grand opening. There it was. Same eyes, same calm expression, just dressed nicer, standing in front of the building, cutting a ribbon. His stomach dropped. Dude, he whispered. That's him.
That's Keanu Reeves?
What?
The owner. The word spread fast, not loud, but fast, like electricity. Owner. Wait, the owner. Employees started glancing over secretly, then looking away quickly when he caught them. Posture changed. Smiles disappeared. Confidence cracked. Because everything they'd said earlier, every joke, every lazy decision, suddenly mattered. A lot. The salesman swallowed. He'd noticed the stares too. The whispers. Why is everyone looking over here? He muttered. Keanu didn't answer. He simply reached down and picked up the sales contract he'd signed earlier. The one for his truck. He folded it once, then placed it gently on the desk. I like this place, he said quietly. The salesman nodded nervously. Yeah, it's a good dealership. Keanu looked around the showroom. At the employees. At the customers. At the woman by the door. It's supposed to help people, he added. Something about the way he said it made the salesman's throat go dry. Not angry, not loud, just disappointed, and somehow, that felt worse than getting yelled at. Behind them, the whisper came again, louder this time. That's really him, I swear. Wait, the Keanu Reeves?
Yeah.
The owner. Yeah. Silence spread in waves, because now everyone understood. This wasn't just a random customer asking questions. This wasn't just small talk. This wasn't just policy anymore. This was accountability, and suddenly, the man they'd brushed off in a hoodie was the most powerful person in the building. The woman near the door slowly turned back around, confused, curious, hope flickering for the first time all day. And Keanu, he finally took one step forward, then another, toward the center of the showroom, toward everyone watching, toward the moment they would never forget. Because now, it wasn't observation time anymore. It was action time. No one spoke. Not the staff, not the customers, not even the salesman. The entire showroom felt frozen in place, like time itself had slowed down just to watch what this quiet man was about to do. Keanu didn't rush, didn't storm off, didn't point fingers. He simply walked forward, slow steps, steady, boots brushing softly against the tile, each step echoing louder than it should have, the kind of walk that makes people straighten their backs without realizing. The salesman stood up quickly now, nervous smile returning. Sir, if there's a problem, I can grab my manager.
That's okay.
Keanu said gently. His voice was calm, almost kind. But I think it's time I talk to everyone. That word hung in the air. Everyone. A couple employees fully turned their bodies toward him. One even fixed his tie. The young worker who recognized him whispered again, "That's him, that's really him." Keanu reached into his pocket, pulled out his wallet. Not fast, not dramatic. He opened it and slid out a simple black card, no logo, no design, just a name. He placed it softly on the desk. The salesman glanced down, then froze. Color drained from his face, because printed clearly across the card was his full name, and under it, owner. For a second nobody breathed. It didn't feel real. The guy in the hoodie, the quiet customer, the man they barely noticed, wasn't just important. He was the reason this place even existed. "I like coming here sometimes without anyone knowing who I am," Keanu said calmly. His eyes moved across the staff. One of the only ways to see how things really work. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. You learn a lot that way. The salesman swallowed hard. I didn't realize." "I know," Keanu said softly. And somehow that was worse. Not angry, not shouting, just disappointed. The kind of disappointment that hits straight in the chest. He turned slightly toward the woman still standing near the door. She looked confused, almost scared, like she thought she might be in trouble too. Keanu gave her a small, reassuring nod, then faced the team again. "Let me ask you something," he said. "If someone walks in here desperate, needing a vehicle to keep their job, is our first response supposed to be policy or help?" Silence. A heavy, uncomfortable silence. Finally, the manager stepped out of his office, having heard the whispers. "What's going on out here?" Then he saw Keanu. His posture changed instantly. "Oh, Mr. Reeves, I didn't know you were." "That's the problem," Keanu replied gently. "You shouldn't need to know who I am to treat people right." That one sentence hit harder than anything else. A couple customers nodded quietly. Even the employees looked down, because deep down, they knew. Keanu gestured toward the woman. "She needs a truck to keep her job. Did anyone here actually try to find a solution?" The manager stammered. "Well, her credit score." "I didn't ask about her credit score," Keanu said calmly. "I asked if you tried." No answer, because there wasn't one. If this moment makes you feel something, take a second to like the video and subscribe. Stories like this remind us what real leadership looks like, and trust me, you don't want to miss the next one. Keanu reached for the contract on the desk, the one for his truck. He slid it aside. "Cancel mine," he said. The salesman blinked.
Cancel it? Yeah.
Keanu nodded.
Everyone stared. "But sir, the payment? I'll cover it." He looked at the woman. Full tank, warranty included, no extra fees. Her eyes widened. She shook her head immediately. "No, I can't accept that. It's not charity," Keanu said gently. "It's an investment in someone who's trying." Her lip trembled. For the first time all day, she wasn't hiding tears. She wasn't embarrassed. She was relieved. The kind of relief that makes your knees weak. Then Keanu turned back to the manager. "And we're going to start an employee review program. Anyone who treats customers like numbers instead of people." He paused, calm. "Won't be working here long." The message was clear. No yelling needed. Power didn't need volume, it just needed certainty. The manager nodded quickly. Understood. The entire showroom felt different now, lighter, like something toxic had just been removed. Keys jingled. Paperwork moved. The woman clutched the new keys with shaking hands, and Keanu. He stepped back quietly, like none of this was a big deal, like changing someone's life was just another Tuesday. Because to him, doing the right thing always was. The energy inside the dealership didn't snap back to normal. It softened, like a storm had just passed through and left the air cleaner. Quieter, lighter. The loud sales chatter from earlier was gone. No one was joking now. No one was rushing. For the first time all morning, people were actually paying attention. Paperwork moved quickly across the desk. But this time it wasn't cold, it wasn't robotic, it was careful, respectful. The same salesman who had dismissed her earlier now spoke gently, explaining every step, offering water, even pulling out a chair for her. Amazing how fast attitudes change when empathy finally shows up. The woman held the keys in both hands like they were made of glass, like they might disappear if she squeezed too hard. Her fingers trembled. She stared down at them for a long moment, then looked at Keanu, eyes red, but smiling. A real smile this time. Not the forced, polite one from before. "Thank you," she said softly. 2 simple words, but filled with everything she hadn't been able to say earlier. Gratitude. Hope. Keanu shook his head lightly. "No," he replied. "Just promise me something." She nodded quickly. "When things get better, help someone else the same way." She blinked, then smiled wider. I will. And somehow that promise meant more than any payment ever could. Outside, the sun had climbed higher. Light pouring across the lot. The old broken sedan was still parked near the curb. Lonely, forgotten, but now it didn't matter, because parked beside it was the truck. Reliable, ready, a fresh start on 4 wheels. She walked toward it slowly, almost in disbelief, like she expected someone to stop her. Like good things didn't usually happen without a catch. She opened the door, sat inside, hands resting on the steering wheel, and for a few seconds, she just breathed. You could actually see the weight lifting off her shoulders. Like the world had finally given her a break, the engine started smoothly. A soft, steady hum. No struggle, no hesitation. She wiped one last tear, gave Keanu a small wave through the window, and drove off. Not fast, not dramatic, just steady. Forward, toward whatever came next. Inside the dealership, employees stood a little straighter now, talking softer, treating people differently, like they'd all been reminded of something important. Something they'd forgotten. That this wasn't just about numbers, or sales, or commissions. It was about lives, and sometimes, one small decision can change everything for someone. Keanu watched the truck disappear down the road, hands back in his hoodie pockets. Same quiet posture as when he first walked in. No speeches, no spotlight, no photos, because that was never the point. Real strength doesn't need attention. It doesn't need applause. It doesn't announce itself. It simply shows up, does what's right, and leaves. He nodded once to the manager, then headed for the exit. Just another guy walking out the door. If you didn't know what happened, you'd never guess anything special took place there at all. But for one person, that day meant everything, and maybe, for everyone watching, it's a reminder too. Strength isn't about power, it's about protection. It's about noticing the person everyone else ignores. It's about choosing kindness when you don't have to. More stories like this are coming soon. So tell us in the comments, which part hit you the most? The quiet beginning, the tension building, or the moment everything changed? Your feedback helps us make better videos for you, and who knows, the next story might be even more powerful. Because sometimes, heroes don't arrive loudly. Sometimes, they're just the quiet person standing right beside you, watching, waiting, ready to help.